Lesson 7.3, Scientific Notation. Scientific notation is a form of expressing very large or very small numbers. The form is as follows: A times 10 to the nth power. Please note, A is a number that is greater than or equal to 1, but is less than 10. A cannot just be any number. It must be a number that is greater than or equal to 1 and less than 10. When we are going from standard form to scientific notation, these are the steps you must take. First, move the decimal point until it is to the right of the first non-zero digit, and that will be A. Note the number of places and the direction that you moved that decimal point. That will be N. If the decimal is moved to the left, write the number as A times 10 to the nth power. If the decimal point is moved to the right, write the number as A times 10 to the negative nth power. And lastly, remove any unnecessary zeros. Let's practice this skill. Number 1, I have to 68,700,000,000. We want to write that in scientific notation. So, I'm missing a 0. Let me add it. Okay, so where is my decimal on this number? My decimal is after the ones place. You may not always see your decimal. If it's a whole number, the decimal will be invisible, but you know it always belongs to the right of the ones place. So where would we have to move this decimal to make it a number that's greater than or equal to 1 and less than 10? Well, I say we'd have to move it between the 6 and the 8 in 68 trillion. So moving the decimal there will give us our A for the scientific notation. So it would be 6.87. And the string of zeros that follow really disappear. They're just not holding any place value or anything for us. They're unnecessary. So it would be times 10 to the, how many places did we move our decimal? 3, 6, 9, 10 places. So 68,700,000,000,000 can be written as 6.87 times 10 to the 10th power. Please note, A is a number greater than or equal to 1 and less than 10. Number 2, 0.0000725. We're going to write this number in scientific notation. Please recall that writing a number in scientific notation is all about moving the decimal place value. So we're going to set up our scientific notation. We know we need A times 10 to a power. In this case, where do we need to move our decimal? Remember that we want A to be a number greater than or equal to 1, but less than 10. I suggest we'd have to place our decimal between the 7 and the 2 so that we have 7.25. 7.25 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 6th power. Because we moved our decimal to the right, the exponent is negative. Please hit pause on the video and go ahead and complete 3 and 4 and then check your work. For number 3, the answer is 2.01 times 10 to the 5th power. Number 4 is 5.1 times 10 to the negative 4th power. Now let's talk about writing a number that's in scientific notation into standard form. The first thing you need to do is you need to note whether n is negative or positive. If n is positive, you will be moving the decimal n places to the right, making the number bigger. If n is negative, then you will move the decimal n places to the left, making the number smaller. Then you will insert zeros, decimal point, and commas needed for place value. So let's practice this skill. We're going to take numbers that are written in scientific notation. We're going to write those in standard form. Number 1, 6.32 times 10 to the 9th power. So n is 9, tells us we need to move the decimal 9 places, in this case to the right, making the number larger. So we have sorry about that. So we have 6,320,000,000. Okay, number 2, 4 times 10 to the negative 7. So n is negative 7, telling us that we need to move the decimal place 7 times, this time to the left, making the number smaller. So our decimal is behind the 4, and we need to move it 7 places to the left. So we need a decimal place, 6 zeros, and our 4. Note that that makes the movement 7 times to the left. We started at the right of 4, and we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places. Please notice that scientific notation does not tell us how many zeros to add or how many zeros to write down. It tells us how many places we need to move the decimal. Go ahead and hit pause as you work on 3 and 4 independently, and then check your answer. For number 3, the answer is 3,201,000. Please note the commas are important in order to facilitate reading the number. Number 4, 0.0000903. Today we will also learn how to multiply or divide numbers in scientific notation. So what we will do for number 1 is we will use associative property to combine the A's and the N's to facilitate this multiplication. So write down the problem. Number 1. I have 3.5 times 10 to the negative 3 times 7 times 10 to the 5th power. So we will use associative property to multiply 3.5 times 7, and then separately we will multiply 10 to the negative 3 times 10 to the 5th power. 3.5 times 7 is 24.5. 10 to the negative 3 times 10 to the 5th power. Remember that when we are multiplying powers with the same base, we will add the exponents. So that's 10 squared. Now your answer needs to remain in scientific notation, but please note 24.5 is greater than 10. So this number is not expressed in scientific notation. So we will need to rewrite it so that it is in scientific notation. So 24.5 can be written as 2.45 times 10 to the first power, and then bring down times 10 squared. Then we can combine 10 to the first power times 10 squared, and we have 2.45 times 10 cubed. And that would be our product in scientific notation. Try number 2 on your own. Okay, let me go over this one step by step with you. We will first multiply the a's, 1.95 times 7.8, and we'll use associative property then to also group the powers of 10. 10 to the negative 8th power times 10 to the negative 2 power. So let's go ahead and multiply. 1.95 times 7.8 is 15.21 times 10 to the negative 8th power times 10 to the negative 2 power is 10 to the negative 10 power. Now notice that this is not in scientific notation because 15.21 is greater than 10. Remember that A needs to be a number that is greater than or equal to 1 but less than 10. So we need to rewrite this in scientific notation. 15.21 can be written as 1.521 times 10 to the first power. And I'll bring down times 10 to the negative 10. Now let's simplify. 1.521 times 10 to the negative 9th power. And that would be your product in scientific notation. Okay, when we are dividing numbers that are expressed in scientific notation, the same concept applies. We will divide a's, and then we will divide the powers of 10. Then we will rewrite our expression in scientific notation. So let's go ahead and divide 2.3958 by 1.98, and then we will divide 10 cubed by 10 to the 8th power. The answer for number 4 is 9 times 10 to the 6th power. I have attached some independent practice for you. So you will be expressing the numbers in scientific notation from standard form and then going from scientific notation to standard form. Let's go ahead and you will work on 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, and 19. In order to practice multiplying and dividing numbers in scientific notation, let's do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Have a great night. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow. Please don't forget, come up with any questions, write them down, and we'll discuss them.